The music may sound familiar, and the clothes are definitely a throwback to the 40s, but this is not your parents' swing scene.
Hi everybody, welcome to the Brain Soup Podcast. It's been a while since I did a podcast, but we're definitely gonna be talking about something pretty interesting, I think. The 90s, probably one of my favorite decades ever. But we're not gonna be talking about your typical 90s stuff. I wanted to branch out for a second. Passies. What is it? Passies is a throwback to a certain era. For example, Stranger Things is 80s passies, right? It's done in the style of the 80s. Even music, I mostly do passies of the 90s stuff, but I also do some passies from the 60s as well, and all that stuff. Now, what if I told you in the late 90s, grunge and alternative music was sort of dying out, sadly. But something was taking over. See, nobody really known what it was quite yet, because, keep in mind, you kind of have to understand the cycle. And what I mean by that, there's a cycle that seems to happen every 20 years. I forget exactly what it's called, but we're kind of seeing it now with pop punk, right? Pop punk is making a big comeback, thanks for people like MGK. Well, in the late 90s, swing music, big band music was making a comeback. Now, a lot of these groups are still around today, actually. Even if they're not, topping the charts like they used to, they're still around, actually. And what's interesting about this is it was very big. And that's kind of what we're talking about today on the Brain Soup Podcast. It's hard to pinpoint who actually started this revival. But before we looked at the swing music ourselves, we need to go back to the 80s. And we need to talk about the Rockabilly Revival. The Rockabilly Revival was getting some type of huge press at the time. Bands like the Stray Cats and whatnot. Basically, what ugly music, old American type music was making a comeback. For example, blues were making a comeback a little bit. Jazz was making a comeback a little bit. It was starting to become a big passies bubble. And by the late 90s, what happened was, even though I'm a big fan of grunge, don't get me wrong, that stuff was usually, how grunge and alternative was kind of like I'm gonna explain it. It was kind of like a punchback against hair metal. Well, this stuff was pretty much a punchback against popular music at the time. Even though a lot of these groups started out as punk bands, for example, the Cherry Poppin' Daddies, they started out as a punk band. But they started mixing up, swing music and big band music in their catalog. And what's interesting about this is everybody wanting to get into the action. It actually started in San Francisco. And you would actually have people driving like these old school cars and, going out in suits and all those things and started, dancing like it's 1940, But it wasn't 1940. This was the 90s, and I think what's interesting about this is they took your grandparents' music but put something new into it. A lot of people don't like the Swing Revival, which I totally get why. It is kind of cheesy, but it's supposed to be, and I think a lot of people forget about this. It's not really supposed to be taken too seriously. Even the bands themselves just said, we're having fun. We're having fun. And I think that's what it was. It was just fun music made by fun people for fun people. Now, I actually like some of this music, actually. I don't mind the Cherry Poppin' Daddies, Big Bad Voodoo Daddies. They seem to like the same names. But I don't actually like the Big Bad Voodoo Daddies. That's actually a good band. But my favorite out of all of them is the Swirl Nut Sippers. That's a good one. But yeah, a lot of these bands are still around today, actually. But of course they don't really get MTV press or whatever anymore. But it's really interesting to see these bands again, and to be honest, I'm going to see something very controversial maybe, because like I said, a lot of people really hate this thing, because even though it's cheesy, it still holds up in many ways. So yeah, I don't think it's going to make a comeback again. And if it does, it's going to be a very niche thing. It was kind of a niche thing before, to be honest. It just kind of blown up. But it makes me think, could we bring back, folk music? Or I guess we kind of did with folk punk. But you get what I mean. Could we bring back, jump blues or something? I don't know. But anyway, have a good day and bye, and tell me what you think about this. And a question here is, if you can bring back any genre or time period for fun, what would it be? Personally, I would say jump blues. Okay, have a good day and bye.